I put Venice on my watch list today, but I haven't bought a single coin yet. The narrative of decentralized AI without data sharing is one of the strongest I've seen this year. But there's exactly one problem in the tokenomics that's been holding me back so far. I'll show you what that is, and what specifically would make me want to buy it. We're not talking about some small niche token here that has no substance. Venice already has over 1.3 million registered users and more than 50,000 active daily. The token's been on the market since January 2025 and has already seen an all-time high of around $22. After that, it crashed by 82%, but it has recovered significantly since then. Anyone who was positioned early or wrongly here felt it directly in their portfolio. So today we're going to take a sober look at the current situation. What is Venice really? Why is the narrative so strong? And where exactly does the problem lie? At its core, Venice is an AI platform, a decentralized one. So you can chat there, you can generate images, you can write code, and all without your requests being stored centrally, on servers. And that's also the crucial thing about the whole matter and the key difference compared to ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini. When you ask questions on ChatGPT, that request ends up on OpenAI servers. There, they're further processed but also potentially stored. And it can theoretically be used for model improvement. Venice, however, works differently. Your requests are listed via a decentralized network of GPU providers, transmitted encrypted and not stored centrally. The promise here is no data points that a company collects about you. Then there's something else that users are explicitly looking for. Venice works with so-called abliterated open source models. These are models where the built-in censorship filters have been removed. So you can ask questions that would simply be blocked on ChatGPT or Claude. For a certain type of user, researchers, developers, writers with demanding projects, it's not a nice extra, but the main reason they switch to Venice. So the narrative is decentralized AI, private data, and no filters. And this narrative, of course, hits the zeitgeist and the right nerve. But that's only half of the story. Because the really exciting question isn't whether the product works. The question is whether the coin really benefits from it and whether the mechanics are stable enough that, let's say, an investor can really sleep soundly. And that's exactly where it gets significantly more complicated. Let's take a closer look at the VVV token. The initial supply was 100 million tokens. No pre-sale, no VC, no deal in the background. 50% went via airdrop to the community and ecosystem projects on Base. 35% went to Venice itself for development and, of course, growth. That's already unusual for the crypto space and signals at least a certain community orientation from the start. The staking model is directly linked to the platform. Whoever stakes VVV gets proportional access to Venice's data centers. If you stake 1% of all staked tokens, you get 1% of the total inference capacity back. And this isn't some arbitrary utility mechanism, it's directly connected to the product. Then there's something else I rarely see so consistently with an AI token, a buy and burn. Since late 2025, Venice has been buying back its own tokens monthly and permanently destroying them. As of early 2026, over 33 million tokens, about 42% of the original supply, have been removed from circulation. Additionally, annual emissions have been cut several times, most recently to 6 million per year. That's already structurally deflationary. As the platform and revenue grow, the burn rate increases and the supply keeps shrinking, so the price pressure is positive and the logic is sound. I'll take a quick break here. If you want to see structural analyses like this before a token has already run 50% or more, then check out 10x Elite. That's where I share all my research work and post altcoins, but also stocks I find that are structurally extremely exciting right now. I also analyze them in depth and issue a report, a full analysis report using my 10x formula. You can find all the info in the video description. But now, back to the context. The model sounds good at first, and yet I didn't buy today. Here's why. In August 2025, Venice introduced a second token, DM. DM is minted from staked VVV and equals $1 per day in AI credits on the platform. The reason for this was absolutely legitimate. VVV naturally fluctuates in price, and that makes it difficult for developers of agents who need predictable computing capacity. DM solves this problem with a stable unit. So far, so logical. but the community hasn't reacted uniformly positively to it. And the criticism is as follows. If users and developers primarily use DM to access the platform, how much pressure actually still lands directly on VVV? This isn't an academic question. Ultimately, it's a crucial question for the value of the coin, the token. Because if DM becomes the actual user layer and VVV is just the vehicle from which DM is minted, then you have to understand exactly what impact that has on the VVV price. The team also responded, and the substantive answer to it is understandable. You need VVV to mine DM, so naturally the demand for VVV also increases when the demand for DM rises. But that's an indirect mechanism, and indirect mechanisms in tokenomics are rarely as clean as the white paper promises. On top of that, there's another point I don't like. According to current sources, governance is completely centralized. No token holder voting on the protocol or decisions. Venice has already cut emissions several times, which was good, but they could have also theoretically increased them. That's not a leap of faith I'm willing to take blindly. But first, one risk point that many have overlooked so far. The privacy promise is good, but it's not completely trustless. Venice operates its own GPUs. Technically, this means Venice could view queries, even if the company says they don't. Verifiable privacy at the hardware level is an unsolved problem for Venice and the entire industry. In January 2025, there were also insider trading allegations at launch when 2 employees bought a launch partner token before the public announcement, so they bought it beforehand. This was addressed, but it's important to know. Those are the facts on the table. Now I'm closing the loop that I opened at the beginning. I put Venice on my watch list, but I just haven't bought it. The problem in the tokenomics, the problem with the dual tokens with DM. Not because the idea behind it is wrong, but because I'm not quite sure yet, and not sure enough, that this value aggregation flows cleanly from the usage level to VVV. The burn mechanic is strong, the deflationary pressure is real, and the product has real users. But I need more clarity on how the balance between the two really behaves in the long term. But what would make me buy are 3 things. First, more transparency about the actual DM demand and its impact on VVV. Second, governance progress. I want to see token holders get a voice in at least central decisions. Third, further revenue growth that is directly reflected in the burn volume. I also had Venice calculated with my 10x formula, and the result on my 10x ranking list is clear. The 10x ranking list with over 130 altcoins. Already on it is available in my 10x Elite. If these 3 points become clearer, then I might be in. Until then, watch list. I'll now briefly show you the chart so you can see where the coin stands in terms of price and which zones I'm watching. Let's go straight into the chart analysis for Venice. Let's first look at the whole thing again from the very beginning. When Venice launched, they already rose massively, but were then sold off heavily. As I said, that was here in January 2025. Then a bottom formation actually started to occur slowly here. The 10x indicator also showed that quite nicely, a possible bottom formation around here, meaning if you had really waited for the bottom formation here and entered, you would be even higher. If you choose it like this here, you'd be at 17x, so 1000. Almost 800% even. So a massive increase really bottoming out. And here you could already see it was slowly becoming an overbought zone, because it's always like that. When many people buy, we enter overbought zones. That means the risk of a correction is naturally higher. The 10x indicator also showed that with large red dots, then you always know, okay, from now on it's getting dangerous. Then we were sold off here again as well. That was, by the way, the AI narrative here, which is why it rose so extremely. Now, of course, the question is when to enter Venice purely from a chart perspective. When does it make sense? And from my point of view, it makes sense not to enter right now, but to wait. We are down here, as you can see, in a range where there is still room to go lower. From a chart perspective, it also looks like this here. We are going further and further down. And you really have to keep in mind here that in the end, the overall market is also important, of course. So in other words, if Bitcoin falls in price now, it naturally pulls all altcoins down with it. Therefore, my personal tactic is to keep waiting until we reach overbought zones, so until we go further down and a large green dot forms again. That is then an indication that we have a possible local bottoming out. and then I will analyze the chart even further. You can also use the 10x indicator yourself, of course, if you don't want to wait for my videos or anything for a big green dot to appear. I'll link the QR code for you here. You can just scan it directly, and then if you want to understand how I analyze other AI altcoins using the same principle, then feel free to watch the next video. Extremely exciting. Thanks for watching, and see you in a bit.